Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm eager to get to a video of Chris Christy dancing, which my wife sent me like a couple days ago. I was unable to get to my emails, and she sends me a lot of stuff through email. And I didn't read emails for a couple days because I was, making that video of the 5-hour video, and I was like, just want to get through it, right? I already had a good thing happening to me today. My dogs are outside the door barking because they want to come in. They usually would sit on the bed, and uh, I'm not allowing them to do that because of the flea issue. They don't have a lot of fleas, but whatever. So there's that. But I had a good thing happen that I take a lot of supplements now. Like before COVID, I took basically none. Only situationally I'd take some, like if I was feeling sick or whatever. But I didn't take, really any supplements or, anything of that nature on a daily basis. My mom used to give me these giant horse pills that I could barely swallow. They were so big, like vitamins. And I was hiding them in the radiator because, as a kid, so I don't have a positive association with them. But then I got COVID and like I had to, and I was missing things pre-COVID. Like I was, oftentimes our food is so low in nutrition. Like even if you get organic food, if you don't eat, the right kinds of foods, the right varieties, you get low in all kinds of minerals and things your body needs. That would be there in, the kind of weeds and the natural foods that people would eat, like of, wild animals and, the kind of stuff that grew before people started to cultivate it and make it better tasting. Like our food is better tasting, but lower in nutrition. And so I've been taking supplements now for a while, and I just love them. Not love taking them, but love how they make me feel. That I've got this sort of rejuvenation happening because of that. But it's a hassle getting all the pills together. Like I have like 3 pill boxes for 9 pill boxes, three times a day, and I have to fill them, and it takes about an hour, and that's always like a kind of a day that I'm not happy about. And I slept late this morning to like 9 o'clock, which is really late for me. And so today was the day I was going to pull them, but I had some pills left over from when we travel. I put some in bags to take on the road, and I thought I might have already taken them, but I was looking for them last night, couldn't find them, and then I found this morning. I was like, boom, like that's just a reprieve, so that's excellent. Um, and so I want to address something. I'm happy to take my channel back. Like I said, there's this Chris Christy video of Chris Christy dancing and Vivek Ramaswamy that my wife sent me, and I have my own stuff here on my channel. And, I made this video about the big parasite. I knew there was going to be some, whatever it is, like an influx of new people, both pro and con. And one of the things I've learned is that when I have to deal with something once, I work to find the best way to deal with it. And I might try a couple of things, but then I settle on something, some way to deal with it. And then I don't have to think about it again. Like every time that thing happens, the first time it's going to take some time and energy to come up with the best way to deal with something, especially when something's new. Like, for example, banning people. Like I've got these rules and I don't have a complaint department and I'm not here to debate people. I say what I say, and I've often forgotten the video by the time you're watching it. So, I'm already moved on. And I don't expect people to agree 100% with me, and I probably know your view. Like I know how other people feel about things. And it isn't going to be mind-blowing. It's just going to waste my time, right? So I have these policies, and it's so much easier to deal with it than reading each comment and evaluating it, because some comments are in the gray area. And I usually tend to side on the side of banning people because, like, for example, if someone complains once, they're going to complain again. Like they're just complainers, right? Like if you allow them to do it once, they're going to keep on doing it. And so I'll nip it in the bud and, so they don't waste my time, right? So some of the comments are kind of in a gray area, and I usually side on the idea of banning because of, like, again, wasting my time. And, people should make their comments clear. Like I can't read sarcasm, and I don't know you as a person. I can't hear your voice, and these things. And oftentimes, comments are so poorly written. It's like, why are you even bothering? Like, no one's understanding what you're saying, right? Like it's like one sentence, and you can't even like construct like one sentence, right? But anyways, I have developed these policies, and they're time savers. Like I just don't. I'm like, all right, this falls in this category, and this is how I deal with this, right? And so I had something happen exactly like what's happening now. And when I was making the Journey series, and I was going through this thing, realizing Dodgy had collapsed and had fallen, and there was a great whispers message that happened like 3-4 days ago. It's going to be in the 122nd Journey series that actually predicts Dodgy's fall in a very subtle way, which I remember reading now, and I read it in a different way. But anyways, the guy was involved in this Brighter Mind scam where he was saying kids could read with their, could smell colors, and they could, read with blindfolds on, all these things. And interesting, there's a like one of those Wes Anderson movies that some guy, for whatever reason I watched this trailer because Benjamin Cumberbatch was in it, and he's usually in like good things, right? He's a good actor. Wes Anderson has created this universe, this weird world, and it's his movies are kind of annoying to me. But watching the trailer, there's a guy who says he can read with his, without he can see without his eyes, and he puts on a big mask, and it's kind of funny. Ties into the whole heartfulness thing with Dodgy. But I realized that there was this issue, and most people didn't know about. Like people told me about the Brighter Mind scam, and it had been going on since 2015, and I didn't find out about 2019. And all these people who were in India, who were at their wits' end with the way Dodgy was failing, started coming forward and telling me things. And there was a whole Dodgy truth movement in India. And some of the people I felt were manipulative. Like they were saying things that, I couldn't verify, and, they were, I don't know, like we would consider them some sort of like concern trolls or whatever. Like they were telling me that I was being threatened and things. And, I don't know if that was true or not, but they were trying to exacerbate the situation and push me into doing what they were scared to do. Some of them said they were like yelled at by people, and in India there's levels of social pressure that we could never understand here, especially like a guru type of thing. And so they started to look at me as their voice, a voice in America where I was far away from the drama, and I just don't care. And I also felt like some responsibility to tell my fellow practitioners what I had learned. And so I made some of the videos public on Facebook. Like I shared them on my personal Facebook page. And I had some hundreds of people who were, who were Abhyasi's practitioners of Sajmarg Heartfulness, right? And I put Dodgy's name in the title. And one video in particular, I called him a little boop, a female dog. Because he had disrespected his former master Chargy in a way that like pissed me off. And I usually wouldn't have done that. It was like really disrespectful. And to people who do the system, it was like effed up. Like they couldn't. And these were people I'd known for years and they already had negative feelings because I'd been kind of slandered before about me. And like, my videos went up from where they get 2,000 to 3,000 views, a Journey series, which is amazing because this was a 9-hour video. Like people were watching a 9-hour video. Like I had trouble sitting through it. Like, I have trouble sitting through my own stuff. Like I've had to change the way I edit. I don't sit through the voiceovers anymore because I just can't listen to myself that much, right? I just, like I'm not a fan of my own channel. Like I have creator Paul that's doing the talking, and then I have editor Paul who doesn't like creator Paul, right? The editing portion isn't as fun as the creating portion. But anyways, the video got like 8,000 or 9,000 views, so it went up substantially. So there's 6,000 more people from the system, which is really probably around the core members, the really diehard members. And I know most of them, and Dodgy himself was watching parts of it, so it was pretty bad. And over time, what I call the Dodgy truthers, And there's one guy who's still I'm still in contact, and I was Facebook friends with him before. I met him in India. Like I was talking to his wife. His wife and I recognized each other from Facebook, and my son was there. Like we were eating breakfast, and she was a nice lady, and he was there, and I saw him. Then we said hi, whatever. So I met him briefly, and I've known of him, and he's compiled all this stuff. Like he's the central figure behind the the dodgy truther movement, and he still contacts me once in a while. But they all started to want to use me, the dodgy truthers, and the dodgy people like somebody, this guy who I call Mr. Ass, who's a complete ass clown. He runs the YouTube channel for Heartfulness, and he has his own. We were friends on Facebook, and he has his own YouTube channel, and his videos are so bad. Like I have wanted to mock them forever. Like they're so mockable. Some of the things that he says, like he thinks he's like a successful businessman, like he's a millionaire, but he is a real ass clown and completely clueless. His his videos are so bad, But I mean, it would start off a whole thing, and it'd be inappropriate for me to do it because like he gets no views. Like it'd be totally like just taking somebody who's, I mean, I just can't do it. Like I want to, but I can't. My brother had a fall, and I had a falling out because he'll never, he'll never be. He does the heartfulness thing, and he'll never be able to, realize. I mean, I don't think he will. Maybe he was. I don't know. But we weren't talking then, and they were trying to contact me, and there was a preceptor who, preceptors like I've explained this before, and he was giving me sittings, and there was a few people that went to him who found out about through my channel, and so, but they contacted him and they want to talk to me, and I sent Dodgy a voiceover which he may or may not listen to, and that was that. And so they started making memes about me versus Dodgy, and it was a whole thing. And I realized I had all these people on my channel who didn't want any part of it or any part of me. They were just here for this issue, and they were both using me and my channel as a way to whatever. And I didn't. I told them all to leave. I said, I'm changing all the names. I'm taking Dodgy and Heartfulness out of all because I would say Journey Series, 90, whatever, 70, whatever it was. I mean, it's up to 121. And, some of these videos are, like I said, 9 hours. I mean, there's like so many hours of content. I got rid of any reference to Heartfulness, and and Dodgy, and I just, I made some of the videos private for a while, then, republished them long after everybody left. And they all left, and, I got my channel back and, all that stuff. But they're all trying to hijack it, and they're all trying to use me in for their own agenda. And so this thing happened, not in that big of a way, but it's a similar thing that's happened with the big parasite, right? And, I did my duty. Like I said what I needed to say that I felt I was compelled to say through, the way that I make videos, through the connecting to divinity within you, which, anybody can do. Like it takes effort. People don't want to do it, but you can all do it. Like everyone's going to find their way to connect with divinity, and, God's going to find a way to communicate with you, whatever it might be. Show you signs. I mean, everyone has their way of, connecting with God. But it just takes a willingness, and, you have to purify yourself to a certain extent because some scars and spiritual grossness get in your way. But, the Sage-Mark system deals with that, and, it helps people to form a relationship with God. But I felt compelled to do this, which I talked about extensively. I'm not going to talk about here. But, it was something where it's not really my problem. And I said that in the beginning. It's not my problem. And there's been like a few trolls from, big parasite trolls. And their comments are so lame. Like their trolling is horrible. Because they don't really know anything about me and, what they're saying. I mean, some of them, whatever it is. Some of them are just saying positive things about the big parasite. They're not saying anything about me, but, they're here to, do whatever. And as soon as they comment, they're being descended upon by 8, 9 comments, other people attacking them. Like there are people just sticking around to go after these people and tell them they're in a cult and all these things. And these people, the big parasite haters, they're not viewers of mine. They're not going to watch other videos of mine. They're not, I'm a required taste, an acquired taste. I think that came out as required, but I said acquired, it just sounded like required. I have a low retention rate in terms of viewers. I've had, I think it's hundreds of millions of views. I think it's well over 100 million views, and that doesn't count the videos that went viral in the beginning. And in the beginning, those videos, people were here for the videos. Like I made videos that sort of like one had 2 million views and some other ones, and people were here for the content. Like someone was about Michelle Obama. Some people are haters of her, and it was about these things. And after a while, there are people who just liked me and liked my content, right? That liked to hear what I said. But that's a small number of people. Like I'm not all that likable. People have to sort of, get beyond my rough edges, and it doesn't, people don't see what I have to offer right off the bat. Like you have to work through it. Like you have to work at it a little bit. And a lot of people are off put by me, just in general in life. Like I'm not an approachable person, and I push people away, and I'm, a loner and, private person, introvert, dyslexic, right? Like, so I'm, kind of not, I would say unique, but I'm different than most people you meet. So I'm not a social person. I suck at it. Like I'm like one of the worst kind of personalities for networking and, building, building a community or whatever. Like I'm one of the worst. I'm an outsider too. I'm always an outsider. So when you're, here I'm the center of the channel, but I still think about myself as an outsider even here, right, to some extent. So what I'm saying here is that all these people are not here because they're going to be here forever. And I've done my duty. I've said what I needed to say. And, there's just this drama now where these trolls comment. It's a very few number of trolls. And like this one woman I covered on my other channel said, Chargy, and she misspelled his name, you should be ashamed of you, right? Burn. I was like doing this with my wife. I was telling her about some of these comments, and I'm like, these are the worst freaking trolls ever. And then the people just going after these people. I mean, some of the things they're not saying aren't that bad, but people just, descending on them. And, I'm not here to wake anybody up. I'm not here to convince anybody. I've been presented things that I feel I need to say something about. And this was one of them. And I went through my process about this over and over again. Don't need to talk about it here. But, seeing similar situation, it's not nearly as intense what I dealt with the Journey series. I'm doing the same thing here. Everyone can go to their own whatever. If you're interested in me and my videos, whatever. You like what I did, then sure, you can stick around. But this isn't going to be, an anti-parasite, big parasite channel. This is not what it's going to be. I've said all I had to say. Now, I did make a video voiceover last night, and it was about big parasite and stuff to do with crowdfunding. And I've decided to put that up on my just for members, because that's a way to just keep the people who aren't here for whatever out of watching it, and it's viewed for people who really need to see it or want to see it, and that's probably the last video I'll make, because just because I want to get back to my normal stuff, and I feel no responsibility to deprogram and try to wake up the people in that community, because some of them have been here for a while, and many of them have their own issues with the guy. And, they like being in the community. The community makes them feel special. And, and I don't know what's going on there. Like, I'm not there. But they do have issues because they're saying in the comment section. There are people who think that what I had to say he really needs to hear, whatever. But again, it's not my responsibility. And, the people who know me and have heard the stuff he said about me when he got, butthurt about my video, and the way that he's having a little tantrum and lashing out is not cool. Like, that's all that you should need to see, right? Because what he'll do to me, he'll do to you, right? What he'll do to the people, Curtis Stone or whatever his name is, or all these people, the way that he goes after people, like that's inherent to his personality. And if you don't understand that, when somebody just says things that he knows are not true, and he says them in a intense, angry rant. And, that's how he deals with conflict. and he does it all the time, like it's a hallmark of his character, you should know that this is not a stable person. And like, you shouldn't need me to tell you this, right? I mean, as an adult, like, this is how you have to see people, no matter what good qualities that are there. It's like the wife who gets beaten by her husband talks about all the good qualities that are there, right? Or whatever. The husband who's has a wife that's like crushing his heart all the time. Like, men are physically stronger, but bad women are, they manipulate and they like crush a man's heart, right? Like this, which is in ways far worse, and nobody really even kind of understands that or knows about it. But if people have certain characteristics, they're not going to change. Like, people just don't change. You need a system to change, and you have to really want to change. And so, like, it's not my problem. Like, people have enough information. You've had enough information before this happened. Like, the stuff in my video is stuff that people are saying, yeah, everyone kind of knows this. Like, they're glad that I'm saying it, but, lots of people have gone through this themselves and know it. Like, this is a known entity. This is a defined person who is out there, being himself. He's not hiding it, right? And, it's being accepted by these group of people, and that's on them. Like, that's their choice and has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm not here responsible. I don't feel responsible at all to wake people up in any capacity. I share information, and, I think the Sajmark system, the gratefulness meditation that we do, is, for me, the answer. It's not for everybody, but it's a wonderful system. But and everyone has to try it to see if it's for them. Like, it's an experiential based system. But lots of people try it and don't like it, or it doesn't do anything for them. And lots of people who, I would rather, if it was my choice and it's not, I would rather not have do it anyway, right? Because they just, there's lots of people who, they might have good spiritual tendencies, and they have sensitivity, and they can feel the transmission, and the system kind of works for them, but their personalities suck. There's lots of people who have not great personalities, and maybe people would even put me in that category, who really thrive under the Sajmark system, but they don't allow it to change them for the better, which I have done. At least I've done that. And so, I don't care. Like, more people isn't better. I'm getting a new influx of people, but people think more is better, and it's not. I talk about this, I think, in my Journey series, but more magnifies. So if something's good, if your team is winning, and your team wins on a last-second shot, or a late touchdown, or a walk-off home run, and it's a great game, the crowd goes, and they're in this this euphoric state, a really good concert, and people are just all vibing together. That magnifies. There's a thing called an egregore, and it magnifies the wonderful concert and the wonderful feeling everyone would have. But when it's a bad thing, when it's a bad game or a bad concert, or everyone's in a bar and there's a lot of negativity going on, or everyone's watching the news and something horrible happens, and everyone, like the big event 2001, everybody watching those things collapse, and those things, and it magnifies the fear and the anger and the things, right? And mobs form, whatever. Like, so more doesn't necessarily mean better. Power is only good if someone has a purity in their system, so the power doesn't corrupt them. And so, like, that's how I've always felt about my channel. I need, some amount of people to stay here, and I need an audience to make this like actually a job. But I let it just sort of figure itself out, right? Because that's what's best for me. Like, having 1 million subscribers or 1 million viewers isn't any different for me, because I'm just sitting here talking to myself, right? But anyways, that's how I'm dealing with it. This one video I made will be up at some point, and it's for members only. And it's my way of dealing with getting these people out of my channel, because the pro big parasite people and the anti big parasite people, they have their own drama to work out, and I don't need to witness it. Like, I don't need to know about it. I don't care about it. And whatever role that I played in this thing, it's, over now, because, I have my own thing here, and it has nothing to do with, this thing, this other thing. Like, really has nothing to do with it. And it really never has. People came to me. I didn't come to them. Like people watched me, I didn't watch them, right? Like people want to connect with me, and I didn't want to connect with them. Like this is how this whole thing has been. And so, yeah, let's get to Chris Christy dancing. This would be great. This is Vivek Ramaswamy, who is, I know so many Indian people from doing Sajmarg meditation. And there's a different, the way they pronounce, like they have, first of all, it's Indian English. Like if you meet Indian people, they speak British English, not Indian English, British English, right? Because the British occupied them. And so they don't speak American English. So it's a country where 1/3 of the people speak English, but only a fraction of that 1/3 ever understood me. And I had trouble understanding them. And they put different accents on words that you read. Like I was talking to some guy, and I was talking about the Mahabharata, an Indian guy in India. And I said, the Pandavas. And I kept on saying Pandavas, who are the heroes of the and he said, who are the Pandavas? And I named some of the people. And he goes, oh, the Pandavas, right? And so I was hanging out with these older Indian guys, and they were trying to teach me some of the words in Tamil, because Master Charji lived in the Tamil Nadu region of India. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't pronounce them the way they were pronouncing them. And there's a word for milk called Paul, and it kind of sounds like my name. And they were like, just say your name, you can always get a glass of milk, right? If you're stranded or whatever. So anyways, I just have trouble pronouncing the names. And I know these people, and it's hard for me to remember the names, and even harder for me to pronounce them. So I don't know if I, like over the years, I debated whether just, not saying their name or butchering it, right? But anyway, I can say Vivek. And so this guy, Vivek, is with Aaron Paul, which is its own thing. I guess Aaron Paul wants to be a player now. And they did this. And Vivek sucks at it. Like he's trying hard, but he's not getting it done. And this would be a great video. Like this would be great in itself. But there's something that's even better that was sent to me like back-to-back emails from my wife. And so as great as this is, and as much potential this has for mocking, it pales in comparison to what I'm about to show you here with this guy. Now, this is a younger version of Chris Christy. Pull up your pants, Chris. I mean, you're working it. Don't, This is the pull up my pants dance. Yeah, there you go. Punch it back and forth. Punch it back. Swing it. Swing it, Chris. Yes, buddy. You got, all right, go down there. There you go. All right, turn it around. Show him that. Show him that monstrosity. There you go. You got it. You got it going back and forth here. Like, the decision making here is unbelievable, right? Like, like, what does he think people are seeing and feeling about this? He has no chance of winning the presidency. You hop backwards there, buddy. But this is just platinum. Like, that this exists. And this guy, right, this now Trump-hating guy, who is just, I talked about him I showed a clip of that weird guy in the Dances with Wolves, and he's that kind of person. A guy who ends up, like, peeing himself, and, some guy who's gone crazy that gives it's early on in the movie, gives Kevin Costner his assignment or whatever. But this guy, like, as much as the Vivek thing is a mistake, this is 1,000 times worse. So there's a thing about dancing, right? There's things that people need to understand in terms of social conduct. And there are people who just suck at dancing, and that's the majority of people. There are some people who are club dancers, like dance in a club, like, when you're going to, bars that have dancing in it. And you can dance pretty well in a group of people on a dance floor who are all drunk. And, people are like, oh, you're a good dancer. Like, people would say that to me back when I was younger, because I had some rhythm and I was an athlete, right? But it's just club dancing, and it's, based on you're being judged on a curve of sloppy, drunk, uncoordinated people, who are uncoordinated in life, and then they are more uncoordinated when they have alcohol. And there's, strobe lights and whatever. And so, like, if you're at a high school dance or you're at a club where lots of people are dancing, it's okay to dance, right? But now with the onset of, cameras where people can take you out of that setting and put you on the internet, it's not a good thing, right? And then there's, people who have had some training in dancing. They've taken some dance classes and, they have some talent. And then, it just goes up from there where you have people who are artists, right? And when you're dancing by yourself, like these guys are doing, when you're out there dancing by yourself, now, like the Vivek thing with Iron Paul, they're doing kind of a line dance. And, you kind of can be hidden by a line dance. And that's why people like to do stuff like the Macarena or whatever. But if you're just dancing by yourself and there's no people dancing around you and there's video of it, it's going to look bad. Like it just will. There's that dance video of Bill Gates and the guy, Steve Ballmer, owns the Clippers. And there's multiple dance videos of Elon Musk. And, you're never going to look good when you're out there by yourself. And when then people remove the music, it's going to be worse. Like I'm doing here. When people can't hear the music, it's even worse. The music makes it a little bit more acceptable. So, like, the rule is you never dance by yourself like this. I don't know what Chris Christy was thinking, but it's great. So anyways, like, that's the Chris Christy thing.
I'm a man who can see without using his eyes.
He saw it, I cried. He saw that trolley. This is absolutely unbelievable. I was flabbergasted.
So I didn't notice this the first time I saw this, but that's Ben Kingsley. It's an English actor. I don't know what his background is, but he played Gandhi. So they got a guy who played Gandhi, and that's Dev Patel, who is another English actor who's, I believe, Indian, maybe Pakistani, but I think he's Indian. He's in a lot of Indian movies. He's in that Bombay movie, whatever it is, where he is on Everyone Wants to Be a Millionaire game show. You've seen this. And they go through his horrid life. It's a really bad depiction of India. I mean, just a really filthy. They paint India as just a filthy, corrupt place, which it is, of course, but that's just, a fraction of it. But anyways, it has an Indian connection. This part of Wes Anderson's movie has an Indian connection with this guy who's, can see without using his eyes. So that whole scam and the whole thing with Dodgy. For those of you who don't know the Journey series, there is the fourth master, the president of the Sajmarg system, came up with this thing called Heartfulness as a sort of a shell company to strip the Sajmarg system, which was, collectively owned, of its assets. I mean, that's the ongoing thought there for the people who can kind of see through what he's doing. But one of the things he got involved in is a scam that's in India that's been around for a while. It was called Middle Mind or something like that, midbrain activation. And it got played out, and this guy who is, he belongs to the Rationalist Society, and he's against all these sort of, hoaxy things, and he went after this, this scam, and then Dodgy adopted it, which is totally against everything that Sajmarg used to stand for. And a doctor who contacted me was asked to do some testing, and he used what the other guy used, which was eye patches instead of blindfolds. You can scam a blindfold. And so it got, he found that the kids couldn't do it. And the people around him turned on him, and he was ostracized, by the Heartfulness people. And he was an American doctor he grew up as an American. He was Indian, but he's really American. I think he's born here, and he's very American. But he contacted me after other people did about this scam. And Dodgy just wouldn't let it go, and he's still running this thing. And so this movie, was, I guess mocking that whole thing there. Okay, so this is Representative Scott Perry, my wife sent me this, and it's not a very, it's a small little video here, and I wanted to get the actual video because it says from C-SPAN. And I looked at C-SPAN, I couldn't figure out what it is, and I did something that I think is kind of smart. I listened to what he was saying, and then I repeated it in my dictation feature for, the Pages word program that I have. And I got, a line and a half of the speech, and then I searched that, and I found this, which is a minute 28, and this video's 3 minutes and 58 seconds. And then I went and found this on YouTube, which is 3 minutes and 12 seconds. So it's, but I'm going to get the meat of it, and we have a much better video here. So that's some of the, skills you learn, on how to find things. Anyways, here's this guy, Scott Perry.
Evidence do you have as opposed to allegations to show to the American public that would merit an actual impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden and prove that today isn't just about some of you
I don't know.
successfully bullied Speaker McCarthy for the sake of enacting political revenge?
This isn't about political revenge. We have the bank accounts. We can see, ma'am, you can see that the homes that the Bidens own can't be afforded on a congressional or Senate salary. You also understand that it's not normal.
Okay, let me speak to this, right? So when I was in India, there was a politician who was a woman who used to be a Bollywood star. And the politicians in India are treated like celebrities. I mean, not just politicians, like somebody who's in charge of the water department, something like that, right? They're considered, people who are really successful are treated in ways like they almost have a cult following. And this woman was arrested for corruption. And she ended up getting acquitted. This all happened while we were in India. And we were advised by Master Charji not to go out of the ashram, all of us from, Europe and America and people from foreign countries, because there's going to be riots. And, the Indian people are very passive, but they have these riots every once in a while. And the charges of corruption against her were written in a document the size of a phone book. Like it was, hundreds and hundreds of pages. And part of that was that she had $10 million of money in her bank account or whatever it was, in rupees. And there was no way she would earn that through her salary. The money that she had could only come from people paying her off. Like that was the basis of the investigation. That's what he's talking about here. They ended up dismissing the case, and the guy wrote the dismissal on one page. Like that was some of the levels of corruption there. That there was a document like that was thousands of pages long of her corruption, and then she was acquitted by a judge, corrupt judge who wrote one page on her acquittal. But what he's talking about here is when you have money and wealth like the Bidens do, and they have multiple homes, and Biden's only been a senator his whole life, well then, he has spent some time where he wasn't a senator, but even before that, they have all this accumulated wealth, and it can only come from one place, corruption, right? I mean, he has to show where, he got paid money. You have to report things on taxes from corporations and things that give him the kind of wealth that he has. And his son, Hunter, of course, was paid extravagant amount of money for smoking crack. And he's paid, people are buying his art. He just became an artist like a year ago, and they're buying his art for like $1 million a painting, right? He sold millions of dollars worth of art, right? For a guy who's just become an artist himself, a guy who's, been an addict his whole life. And so the corruption is obvious, but the news won't cover it. This is all of Joe Biden's homes, right? So he has a home here in Greenville, Delaware. He has another, a Roebuck beach house in Delaware. This is from Google Earth. So if this is by the beach, it's worth $2.7 million. Let's say he got that a while ago. This other one is worth, it's closer to $2 million. So he's got, again, he could have bought these earlier. Then this is Virginia. They all have Virginia or Maryland homes. Very rich area, right? And this is 12,000 square feet. And it doesn't say how much the house is worth. It says Jackie Kennedy grew up there. These are huge homes. He's got another one in Greenville, Delaware, and this one's worth $1.2 million. He's got all these mansions, right? So he's got 4 monster homes, and he's been on a salary. The president, I don't know what the president makes now, so they make $174,000 a year, and so they have a pay scale here. But it's, under 200,000. I think the president makes 300,000, something like that. And so it's not a lot of money. They're not, multi-millionaires compared to what his houses are worth and, his other things that he has, right? I'm sure he has, other things.
Counts, we can see, ma'am, you can see that the homes that the Bidens own can't be afforded on a congressional or Senate salary. You also understand that it's not normal for family members to receive millions of dollars from overseas interests. Those things aren't normal. It's not normal to have 20 shell companies. These things are not normal, and it alludes to not only just widespread corruption, but money laundering, if not influence peddling itself. And we also have the vice president at the time on record saying that the prosecutor was fired. Well, son of a bitch, the prosecutor was fired, right? Because the prosecutor was going after the company that his son was working on. That's what we have. If you can't see that, if you are that blunt, look, I'll turn it over to you.
The American people can't see that. They think it's political revenge.
It's because you don't report on it.
Because you don't report on it. Like this woman, is trying to make this a revenge thing. And Biden is as corrupt as they come. Like, you can just see the guy. I talk about reading people. You just get a sense of people. And Biden, some people are just, they don't have the ability for abstract thought. There are a lot of people who are, lesser educated, lesser intelligent, lesser developed than Joe Biden and Donald Trump and other people. There's lots of people who they can't see because they're just not, it's like a dog looking up at you and trying to figure you out as a human being, right? They just can't conceive of you. Like, you can think about your dogs, like my dogs ate some bunnies, right? They found some baby bunnies. My wife and I were going for a walk, and a baby bunny hopped onto our trail, like a cute little baby bunny. And it was unusual. Then it hopped back into the grass. And then I said, "Where's Tulsi?" Because Tulsi's a bunny killer. And Buddy also eats bunnies. Like, he gets Tulsi's leftovers or whatever. Like, Tulsi walked by with 3 baby bunnies in her. These were like really tiny ones. And as soon as I saw the bunny doing something weird, I realized Tulsi wasn't walking with us, which she usually does. And then I saw her walking out with a different baby bunny in her mouth. And she buried it. And if she found another one and buried that, which I didn't know, she had already done that. And there was 2 baby bunnies buried, and she couldn't wait to go outside. Like, every time we walked close to the door, she ran up to the door like, "I want to go outside." And I let her out. She ran right to where the baby bunnies were. Like, and I was thinking about, like, dogs aren't supposed to have object permanence. I was thinking about, they don't have language. Like, if it was a human being, you'd say, words in your mind or visual images, "Oh, I got to go dig up that bunny," right? I have to go, go to that drawer over there where I have candy. Like, you put candy in a drawer and you remember it's in the drawer. Babies can't do that. Like, babies don't have object permanence. You put something away and they don't know it's there. Like, if you put something on front of a baby and then you put a box over it and they lift the box and they see it, it's like magic to them, right? Like, if you put you hide something and they find it, they're like, "Wow, it's here." They don't have object permanence. They can't remember where something is that they can't see. But dogs sort of have it, right? And I was thinking about this, how that, a dog sees the world. And you can't do that, if something's beyond you. People who are more evolved than you and more, complex, and simple people can't, people don't have the ability for abstract thought. But the people who do and can see Joe Biden for what he is, people who are beyond him, it's an easy read. The same thing with Donald Trump, right? They're grifters, they're narcissists, they're liars, and you just see it. It's not hard to see. And whether you get, put under a spell, you get, you let your desires for somebody, a hero, whatever it might be. But like, it's obvious to the rest of us. That's why it's so, difficult to watch all this stuff, because it takes place on a very remedial level. A lot of the stuff that they put out there in the media and politicians is for the benefit of people who are very underdeveloped, which is, over 50% of the people. More than half the people don't have the ability for abstract thought.
You know,
We're here reporting on it today with
I'm not
respect.
sure how you know what the American people think, but here's what they might wonder. Actually, if you're a federal prosecutor, you would be asking yourself, how can there not have been an indictment for a FARA violation against Hunter Biden? How can there possibly, my understanding and discussions with staff have confirmed my impulse that this would be very much the basis of a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act investigation, given the circumstances that we know. The question is, it's funny, after we come out of the events that John Durham, for example, testified to our committees about how investigations proceeded through our investigative agencies without proper predication. It's not that you have to prove the case. It's not that, you understand, to this point, there's not been a single subpoena to a Hunter Biden bank account, or a Joe Biden bank account, or any other Biden family member's bank account. Because until an impeachment inquiry commences, that's not a jurisdictional possibility. Well, it would be stretching jurisdiction to do that. But there's ample predication at this point in time based on that very unusual set of circumstances, which is for no apparent payment for expertise or services rendered. Biden family members writ large received over $20 million.
$20 million. Because they were connected, so they're buying influence. People without, Hunter Biden never went to his job in the Ukraine. He didn't speak Ukrainian. He knew nothing about natural gas, and he was smoking crack the entire time. Like, he did nothing for them. Like, it's so corrupt, right? And then there's the laptop. Like, so they have a wealth of evidence. And I'm not, Trump and his family took more money. Like the Trump family took, Jared Kushner and Trump's daughter got like billions of dollars from the Saudi government. Billions. This guy's talking about millions. Like, the Biden family is not nearly as good at this as the Trump family was. Trump's a businessman. Like, he knew how to monetize his presidency. I'll show you that in just a moment.
It is very simple for someone just to insist.
This guy said as what we know of. Like, he said $20 million, and he said what we know of.
Absence of evidence. But if you can look in the face of that and contend that's, anyone has a right to their opinion. What they can't do is change the facts.
And I invite you to go to the website clyde.house.gov/Biden crime family, and you will see all the evidence from the Oversight Committee. You will see all the evidence. And if you're willing to read it, I think you'll be convinced.
Thank you.
Okay, so they're not, because they're not. But the walls are closing in on Hunter and JoJo. And that puts Kamala as next up, right? Next man up, which is a disaster. I got a few more things to show you here. Jared Kushner, the guy who bought Park Avenue 666, or whatever it was, Fifth Avenue 666, which is the Antichrist devil number, right? It was supposed to be a mark of the beast. Jared Kushner secured a $2 billion investment from the Saudi Arabia. So the Saudi Arabia invested $2 billion in Jared Kushner. Like, Trump was just much better at this than Biden, Okay, I'm going to show you some video clips and some headlines, and then I'm going to comment about this afterwards. All of these things. They're all kind of woven together. Lauren Boebert and Beetlejuice and all these things. Biden won't pardon his son if he's convicted on federal charges, White House says. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters that the president would not pardon or commune Hunter Biden's sentence if he's convicted on federal gun charges. Then there's other charges that are coming. Like this is, I would imagine, we'll see. Because it seems like they're doing this because you can see this picture here. They're screwing Joe Biden. Like he looks very weaselly, very creepy. His son looks all happy like he's just, robbed the, piggy bank, and Joe Biden looks like he's complicit. Like it's a bad picture to go with this. Like it's making them look like criminals. And this is MSNBC that's been covering for Joe Biden forever. And they came out with even Mika Brzezinski, who's maybe the number one Biden lover in the mainstream media. And they came out and talked about how he's lost popularity. And I'll get more into that with CNN poll and CNN. So seems like the walls are closing in on him, and there's not much of a backup plan. And so time to stop Joe Biden's power play to protect himself and his family. And, this is New York Post, which has been after him for a while. Gavin Newsom shuts down running in 2024. Democrat says Kamala is lined up to replace Biden, 80 if he drops out, and tells donors to stop wallowing over dire polls and get behind Biden. So Gavin Newsom, who is their best chance, he's done a horrible job, like an abysmal job in California. So much so that people are fleeing. Democrats are fleeing from the state. And it's a crime-ridden, New World Order, Agenda 31 state. And they've ruined California. And, even more so than New York. And he just sucks. But people don't care about that because they elected a guy who has brain damage and an obvious criminal in Trump. So they don't care, right? People will still vote for him. And he's probably the smoothest talker and, best polished politician the Democrats have. But if he's saying he won't run, and of course he might reverse that, here they are together with Biden. But here is Meet the Press.
Filing deadlines haven't passed. President Biden doesn't run. Why shouldn't we consider you a likely candidate?
I think the vice president is naturally one lined up, and the filing deadlines are quickly coming to pass. And I think we need to move past this notion that he's not going to run. President Biden is going to run, and looking forward to getting him reelected. I think
he's so unlikable. He's like, a devil. Like
so much wallowing in the last few months and hand-wringing in this respect. But we're gearing up for the campaign. We're looking forward to it.
But you hear the...
He's just like, look at this look right here. This sort of weird, flirty kind of just, look at this look.
Forward to it.
But...
The head tilt, right? Watch the head tilt.
But...
And he sort of fucking bats his eyes. But he obviously is more fluent in the English language than either Biden and Kamala and any of the other Democratic candidates. He's already better than all the ones they ran before as a candidate, like as a actor. Like he could play a doctor or a, president on TV. But he's a horrible person, and there's just something like evil about him.
You hear these calls privately. What do you tell these donors who are wallowing in this?
Time to move on. Let's go.
And am I supposed to interpret that comment about the vice president, that if for some reason the president chose not to run at this point,
well, that's
everybody rallies around her?
It's the Biden-Harris administration. Maybe I'm a little old-fashioned.
Yeah,
maybe I'm a little old-fashioned about presidents and vice presidents. I was a lieutenant governor, so I'm a little subjective.
It's your relationship with the vice president.
We knew each other before we were both in politics. The day I got sworn in as mayor, walked across the street. She got sworn in as district attorney. Extraordinarily close working relationship, including her time in the Senate.
So you can't imagine ever having to run against each other?
Of course not. By definition, it won't happen. But I've said that 1,000 times. We privately continue to maintain a very good relationship, interpersonal, just how you doing, checking in. It's been a challenging few years with COVID. And we've had the opportunity to sit down.
Okay, so that was their best chance. And maybe he's just being a weasel here and, Kamala Harris, nobody likes. I talked about this over and over again. I watched the primary in 2019 for the 2020, the Democratic primary. And Chris Matthews, the now disgraced Chris Matthews, and I could never find the clip, but he was talking about the dream ticket of Biden and Harris long before that was ever possible. So Biden was running at 20%. He was the big name. And everyone else was kind of unknown. Of course, Bernie Sanders had his support. But everyone else was unknown. And Kamala Harris was getting a lot of media attention. Like they kept on talking about her being somebody. And she wasn't, right? She was horrible. So they pumped her up and she got up to 12%. And then, remember, Tulsi Gabbard went at her at a debate. And, she was now favored. So they started to scrutinize her. And she plummeted to below 1% and never recovered. And she was out of the race before Cory Booker and that guy Andrew Yang. I mean, she was, Mary Wynn Williamson. I mean, she was out of the race before, basically unknowns. The Democrats said they didn't like her. And so that should have been it. Like the Democrats did not want to vote for her. She got a favored position and she was rejected. But Biden made this promise that he would choose a woman and then an African-American woman, a woman of color. And Kamala was the, best choice for him. And maybe because if it was somebody good, like it was Cynthia McKinney, like somebody like that, it wouldn't have been her. She was she's a semi-truther, like she's a, quality politician. She's out of politics. But it was somebody good that would embarrass him. Like a vice president's always supposed to be the clown. Like Biden was Obama's clown, his Ed McMahon, someone who was there to take all the guff and make the gaffes and things. In fact, he was a good vice president, Biden, for playing that role. But vice presidents often don't become president because they play that role. And, that's why Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State and not Obama's vice president. Plus, they're always seen as the sidekick, right? Like, Robin doesn't become Batman, right? Like if Batman died, Robin doesn't inherit Batman. They get a new guy, right? Robin's always going to be the sidekick. And so, they have a Kamala Harris problem. And now nobody likes her, even worse than Biden. And plus, she's associated with the disastrous Biden presidency and then all the Hunter Biden stuff. So this is Dana Bash on Biden.
No way to spin this. CNN reads the country's mood right now and finds that America is deeply unhappy with Joe Biden.
Okay, so let me see if I can find this video, a longer version of this video. So here's Dana Bash. She recently did a totally deceptive hit piece on RFK Jr. She's supposed to be one of their big political analysts there at CNN. And just an absolute Biden shill.
Today on Inside Politics, there is no way to spin this. CNN reads the country's mood right.
Wait, do you want to spin it? Do you want to spin it? Like, we'd like to spin it, but we can't do it. Sorry.
Today on Inside Politics, there is no way to spin this. CNN reads the country's mood right now and finds that America.
Right now, they're trying to say right now it might change.
America is deeply unhappy with Joe Biden. Most Democratic voters hope for a change at the top of the ticket, and Americans don't take the president at his word when he talks about his son, Hunter. Plus, a deal he couldn't refuse. Trump employee number.
Okay, so they always have to bring back Trump. Like, it's all about Trump. But here, let's get into this part here.
There is deep-rooted dissatisfaction with the incumbent and the direction he is taking the country. There are even deeper doubts about if Mr. Biden is up to the job again. CNN's David Chalian is standing by for us at the Magic Wall. David.
It's a magic wall. What are they saying at the magic wall, David?
These numbers are just not good if you are a sitting president of the United States. Show us what they tell us.
Yep. Show us what the magic wall, David. I mean, here's the magic wall.
There's no doubt about that, Dana. This is setting off alarm bells inside the Biden campaign in the White House. Overall, his approval rating is down now at 39%.
Hey, don't touch the magic wall, David, you F. You boop. Don't touch it, David.
Approve, so more than 6 in 10 Americans disapprove of the job he's doing. And you see he's been hovering here for a little bit, Dana, since the spring. You mentioned that
Whoa, it is magic. It's like almost like a touch screen.
Democrats
It's like some kind of a touchstone. You touch it and it changes.
would like somebody other than Biden as the nominee of their party. That is dramatically so. 2/3 of Democratic and Democratic-leaning voters say that they would like a different candidate to be the Democratic nominee.
Wow, right there, it's there, 33%.
Only a third of Democrats
67%. They were saying 66 at first, but it's actually 67.
and Democratic leaners say they want Joe Biden to be the
Right, here's where the magic happens. He's going to do it right here.
nominee. And we asked this
Boom, magic.
open-ended question of Democrats and Democratic leaners. What is your biggest concern about a Biden candidacy? It's not even close, Dana. 49% say it's his age.
That ain't getting better, Dana. Dana. I thought it was Dana, but whatever. This guy runs the magic wall, so what do I know? And so 50% of the people say it's his age. And then all these other things, and health and mental sharpness are part of that. But his age ain't getting better. He ain't getting younger.
7% mental sharpness, 7% health, ability to do the job. This is all related to Joe Biden being the oldest president currently serving and obviously asking the country to renew his contract for 4 more years beyond next year.
4 more years.
And what about a potential Biden-Trump rematch? What do our numbers say about that?
Dana.
Boom, magic wall right here. He's going for it. Close your eyes, Dana. And he's going to do this here.
It is a
Boom.
dead heat race, basically. 47% Trump, 46% Biden. This is the first time we at CNN this cycle have tested a general election match.
The fact that he's running behind Trump, like Trump is a disaster on every level. And Trump's, capped off. Like Trump has 53% of the people said they'll never vote for him under any circumstance. And so Trump is like he's just, that's his maximum number is 47%, right? The most votes that Trump could get is 47%. And so, Biden, I mean, this is just like everything. And, some part of me, like just in terms of the apocalypse, wants to see this just because it means the end, because you can't recover from this rematch, right? Even though Huffington Post did a thing on it. Nobody wants it. And yet it's right now, that's where it's going. And so like it's two people that, it's a coin flip for people who are either not going to vote or will just make a decision based in their former political leanings or their hatred for Trump or their hatred for Biden, like people who don't want to vote for either one of these guys but have to choose one. And then, and then all the scams and things that go with it. And then people realizing that they don't like Kamala and that she's going to be, if they vote for Biden, they're voting for Kamala. So they got two unlikable people on one side and one massive unlikable fish boy on the other, right?
Matchup like this, and this is no clear leader, well within the margin of error, a real dead heat contest. And you know what?
Magic
it's not
wall.
a contest many Americans are all that psyched about. I mean, look at their favorability numbers. They're the same. 35% of Americans have a favorable view of Joe Biden. 35% of Americans in this poll have a favorable view of Donald Trump. And Dana, look at some of these attributes for the president. He doesn't have majority support for any of them. 45% of Americans says he cares about people like you. 33% say they're proud to have Biden as a president. Only 28% of Americans says that the president inspires confidence.
Like it's so bad. It's just going to get worse because he's going to do more gaffes. And people are going to be more, whatever they are, right?
It's Dana.
Wow, pretty incredible numbers there. Dave.
The magic wall, I was thinking about it, editing, and I was thinking about it. CNN viewers are so old, they probably do think it's a magic wall. Like they're told they haven't used a touch screen, right? It's a magic wall. He's touching it and it's changing. Then here on CNN as well, just briefly.
We have brand new CNN polling this morning, and those numbers are looking rough for President Biden. Could be a troubling sign for Democrats and the president's hopes for re-election in 2024. Biden's approval rating sinking to 39%, nearly 60%.
So CNN has never covered him like this. They have covered up for him. The guy was like pooping himself in public, and they were pretending it wasn't happening. I mean, literally and figuratively. Like he has been a disaster. He's had all these senior moments, senile moments, Alzheimer's, dementia moments. He's been corrupt. His son is obviously corrupt. They all know it, right? This is not a secret. They've known this for years. He was always like a goof, right? He was always a groper and just a weird guy. A disastrous candidate for president. They ran him anyway, and they covered it up. They pretended all that wasn't going on. CNN did a hit piece in 2015 about him. I showed you that so much, where they're talking about him being a gaffe magnet and a liar and just, all of these things. He plagiarized stuff. And he's run for president 4 times, and no one ever seriously considered him a candidate. But he was the best of a bunch of abysmal candidates, and he was probably the most corrupt and the ones that people wanted to loot. I said whoever won the 2020 election was going to be in charge of looting America, whatever's left of America's wealth. And, with the Ukrainian war and all this stuff, I think that's pretty well established now. I think most people would at least kind of agree with that, even sheeple. And so this was him, right? And, this is like just bad. 2 bad candidates, 2 failed presidencies, 2 horrible people, and just a divided country. And things are only going to get worse. So then I want to get to JoJo Boebert. And she, she went to Beetlejuice and she was obviously stoned or something. She was either drunk or, taking ecstasy or something. And they caught it all on camera, even though it was a darkened theater. And it's embarrassing so bad that she had to apologize. And so this happened first.
Waiting throughout the rest of this Congress to actually hold Joe Biden and his corrupt family accountable. He knew while he was running for president that he was involved in this corruption and this bribery scheme. And that right there compromises him as president of the United States.
Okay, so she did this after... I don't know why these people are hanging on her every word, because she's an absolute dope. And I'll get into that because, like people who, you got Fetterman, you got AOC, and you got Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then lots of other ones we don't know about, but these are the prominent ones that you're like, how can these people have leadership positions? Like, how is Fetterman a senator? Like, how is that even possible? And so... the other ones are representatives, which is still, bad. But how did Trump become president? How did Biden become president? These are not the cream of the crop. They're not smart. They're like, many of them below average. Trump's maybe a little bit smarter as a businessman, but he's still stupid. And Joe Biden is, he was never sharp. Like, he was a quality BSer. Trump and Biden both are good BSers. But that's about it, right? And, there's some intelligence in grifting. But, these are just horrible people. And incompetent ones is that. But let's go to her Beetlejuice thing here.
Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of Colorado has long railed on the House floor that the left is grooming children by exposing them to what she calls obscene content, in reference to things like drag performances for children and the use of LGBTQ inclusive flashcards to teach colors to students. Well, on Friday...
See, this is the kind of person they want to throw out there to say these kind of things, right? She says things that many people in the truth community agree with, some of them, especially the right-wing leaning people. But she's, embarrassing to everybody who believes those things, right? She's not someone you want to be your spokesperson. And then she comes out and,
Friday, Boebert apologized for her own behavior, coming at a recent performance of the family-friendly musical Beetlejuice, showing in Denver.
Oh, that's a nice show.
That's a great...
Yeah, that's a nice show. Good show, Beetlejuice.
Yeah, great. That's very family-friendly.
It's very family-friendly. Beetlejuice is a real demon. Is considered a real demon, right? Here I'll insert my Alec Baldwin meme from that movie.
You tell them that we are horrible, desperate, ghoulish creatures.
But Beetlejuice is supposed to be a real demon. And the original movie is filled with demonic, satanic stuff. It's just a very, bad movie. So here's the demon that was portrayed in that movie. It's gross. It's like not for kids. It has stuff that it's not appropriate for kids, right? And then they have this play that's come out, and I don't know what the play is about. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. But again, it features a demon. And the demon is the hero, it looks like, of the play, right? And so Beetlejuice is a demon, like Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is a what type of spirit is Beetlejuice? Beetlejuice is a bioexorcist, a ghost who can exorcise the living. He is very strange and hangs out with only real friend Lydia Dietz. So you get the idea. Beetlejuice is this, demon that is now very prevalent in American culture because of the movie and now this play. And both the movie and the play were targeted at kids. They were considered kids' movies, right? And so that's the first part. So Lauren Boebert shouldn't be at this play. Like, she's against all this stuff, but, she goes to this play, and then she engages in her own depraved behavior.
A lot of
flash
kids there.
cards. She's worried about flash cards.
She's worried about flashcards.
Okay.
And let's also, as we're looking here at footage, let's give credit to the quality of the night vision cameras at this theater in Denver, Colorado.
So they have night vision cameras here, right? I mean, that they, that show them. I mean, it's dark in the theater. You showed it looked like before.
Extraordinarily clear because the 36-year-old...
So she's vaping. She comes in there and vapes.
Congresswoman first denied reports that she had been vaping during the performance.
Some lady's like, can you please stop vaping? Boop.
But you'll see in a moment, she was. According to the Denver Post, a pregnant woman seated behind her...
So then she's doing selfies here.
...asked her to stop.
You're taking flash pictures.
Look at her dance.
Before Boebert
Look at her
was
dancing. Look at her
ejected
dancing.
for causing a disturbance at the show. But thanks to the high-quality cameras there in that theater, Boebert had to change her tune and apologize after surveillance video revealed that she was indeed vaping, as well as she and her companion explicitly groping each other repeatedly while they were in their seats.
And so I've seen the video in which they do that. He's grabbing her bosoms and she's grabbing his crotch. And they got her on camera. In this kid-friendly theater, watching a play about a demon, and she's supposed to be a right-wing politician. I mean, then she had to apologize, and then she's going after Joe Biden. And she's just so stupid. Like, she's just so, a stupid with an attitude. I got a few comments to get to, like a whole thing I want to do here in just a moment. But I want to finish up with this thing. And, going back to the Chris Christy thing, these are all unlikable people. Like, all these politicians are unlikable. And, well, first of all, they're insincere and they're not genuine. Like, whatever they're doing, they're putting on an act and they are targeting a demographic and they create characters, but they're not even good at it. Like, most of them aren't very good actors. Like, I don't understand why I don't get just better actors. Like, people are used to falling for narratives in TV shows and movies. And I don't know why they just don't get actors and bring them through the political process and, have them like Reagan, someone like that, and have them play these roles. But maybe they need stupid people to connect with stupid people. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what this strategy is. And I think it's probably the last thing. They need stupid people because stupid people can identify with other stupid people. Like Chris Christy dancing, like, it's hilarious, but it's really bad decision making. And then you have all these successful politicians, and very few of them are competent and can't carry on a conversation or, have a reasonable discussion. And Lauren Boebert, what's they calling her? I thought she was the smart one compared to Marjorie Taylor Greene because they don't like each other and they're the same person. They're just like low consciousness, right wing, semi-truthers but not real truthers. And they both have an attitude problem and, are running on their emotions. They're just completely driven by emotion, no mind, right? No sense of intellect. And you see that more and more in politics. I got a thing to do on Fetterman. Someone just sent me a video. I guess he did another interview, so I got that to look forward to in the next, the next video. But then you have this thing with the Bidens. They all knew he was corrupt. They all knew it. Like, they gossip and talk about each other. They're all corrupt to some extent. Because $160,000, these people who are power hungry, attention seeking, big life living, materialistic sleazeballs. And they're not doing this for 160 grand a year. They need more money. So that's where the lobbyists come in and all the other perks, because they all live very, and a lot of the stuff they do on the government's dime, right? But, it's not worth it for the money, which they could make much more money in the private sector. And so they all are bought and paid for, because that's the kind of personalities that are involved with this thing. But anyways, they're all corrupt to some extent. But they knew the Biden family were corrupt. And the one thing they haven't gone after Trump for is the $2 billion deal that Jared Kushner made with the Saudi Arabians. And his family got paid, because Trump is good at that kind of thing, and he got paid. So they don't really talk about this thing. Everyone does it, and they all know about it. But Hunter Biden took it to another level. And he would have been all right if Joe Biden didn't win presidency. This would have never been an issue. And they would have all known about it. A crackhead, he's the world's most successful crackhead, which, is an accomplishment, because, he got foreign governments to support his crack habit and his stripper habit, right? And so, that's kind of interesting. But in terms of, like, what's happening now, it's a no-brainer. And they're burning him. And MSNBC now they're the most pro-Biden network. They're even more so than CNN. They slather all over him, and they're all burning him. And so where does that leave them? Like, they got Kamala, and no one's really even talking about her seriously. The Democratic people have spoken, and they don't want him. And, like, they got to be listening to that, right? We're far away from what's going to happen in terms of the primary. They're going to try to slide Kamala in at the last minute as their candidate. Like, that ain't going to work, and just hope that people hate Trump enough. Like, it's, I'm interested. This is going to be interesting. Like, it's the age of both Trump and Biden, the court cases against Trump. Like, Trump should just go away, because they would be forced to punt on Biden. Just for the Republicans' strategy. But they won't do it. Like, it's so self-sabotaging, and, everybody sucks so bad, and they just can't. They're not functioning, and they're not mentally competent. Okay, this video is getting long. I just want to move on to the comments. Okay, so I want to start off with a sort of mundane first, and then say something that I think is kind of profound in the sense of truth community dynamics, or any social group dynamics, and things probably people don't know about, like most of you guys. So the first comment here, and I'm going to marry this with some other comments. I don't have the exact comments, but they all have the same kind of tone. These are all big parasite followers. What if you're wrong about him? This person wrote this. Like, the trolling level is really bad, and I'll get into that in a second. But what if I am? Like, what if I'm right? Like, what difference does it make, right? I think people are, in fact, I know people think that what we're doing here across the whole internet and in the news media and all of it has a larger effect on the world and other people than it does. Like, people think I have some kind of big audience, right? I get 4,000 or 5,000 views per day. This channel, between the two channels, it's about, probably 8,000 to 10,000 views a day, which isn't nothing. But for most of those people, it's the same people. And so there isn't really much I'm going to change in terms of, some of these people might find God in themselves. They might do the gratefulness meditation that I do, which is the most profound effect and is transformational for people. And that's, maybe 1,000 total people have tried it through this channel, and 100 or so are still doing it, or at least the last time I checked, right? And so that's about it. Like, that's, something personal for them, personal transformation. If you can see the difference between Big Parasite and me in this thing, I haven't reacted emotionally. None of this came out of negative emotion. None of it came out of something personal for me. Like, I haven't been personal about the whole thing. The first video, he mimicked me, mocked me, and said things, misrepresented me as a person, and misrepresented the things I said, and, just basically lying about me. And then he got worse after the 5-hour video came out, and people are telling me he was saying stuff about my family, my dead daughter, attributing things to me that aren't true. making fun of my physical appearance, right? And, I didn't react to any of it. It doesn't bother me. Like, I don't care. Like, it didn't, when I read that, I had no emotional reaction to it. And I didn't lash out at him and say anything about him, like making this personal, because that's not what this is about for me. The worst part about this was making the video and connecting with him and watching his, his stuff over and over again. All that was very dense and heavy. And then realizing that there had been a parasitic connection. And once that was severed, I felt a lot better, which I described in the most recent video. And everything I've said has been honest, which I think most of you know. So I didn't do anything malicious or dishonest. I didn't have a hidden agenda. I explained why I did things, and you can agree with them or not, and I'll get back into that in a bit, the stuff about God, because that's the more profound thing. But I'm transparent about why I do things, what's my motivation. And even though people say, well, that's a lot of information, but if I don't give it to people, and even if I do, they'll misinterpret what I'm doing, and they'll, people want to twist your words for their own benefit or other people's, whatever their agenda is. And this difference, what I'm talking about, this difference between the way I reacted, he got all emotional, lashed out, was having some sort of breakdown, spiraling, maybe using this to get more attention for himself or using victim consciousness, whatever. I don't care. The difference is he thinks my opinion of him matters, and it doesn't. It doesn't matter. My audience is my audience. There's lots of people who are saying they're still going to watch both of us, like whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to undermine him with his audience other than I think he, is more than likely hurting them. I mean, I know he's hurting them from my perspective, that it's bad for them, but who knows? Like I don't know how bad they are, right? But in reality, what other people think about you and say about you doesn't matter. Like you think it does, but it doesn't matter. People are going to believe things or not believe things. Maybe they won't tell you the good things about yourself. Maybe they won't tell you the good things they think about you. Maybe they won't tell you the bad things they think about you. But, people have their own impression of you. And the people that want to be in your life maybe focus on your positive qualities and they don't give you the feedback that would hurt your feelings or whatever. But they think things, it's coming out here. Lots of the people who are around him believe the same things I said. In fact, I think all of them know some of it's true, right? Like, even if they're supporting him for whatever social dynamics, they don't want to get kicked out of the group, they're afraid to speak up. But I think they all know that, what I said was basically true. That he's toxic. I mean, you can see it when he rants. Like, you can feel the energy. There's toxicity. He's hateful. There's hatred in his system, a lot of it. A lot of anger, and he's, kind of broken psychologically. So, I mean, that isn't news, and most people know about it on the internet. Like, he's got lots of haters and people who know that, and he got former members who know that. And so that's all I said, and, I mean, it needed to be said. And it came from, what I consider a divine process, and whether you believe that or not, that's what I believe. That's what the reason I did it. But what difference does any of it make, right? People can talk about you all the time. For him, maybe because he looked up to me, maybe because of, he respects my opinion, and he can't deal with what I said. He can't face up to himself. But that's where the crisis is coming. The crisis is just about that. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It has nothing to do with his community. It has to do with that he's being told something that everybody else knows is true, and, he needs to change. I mean, it's something he clearly has to change, right? It's self-destructive, self-hating, negative energy he's putting out to the world. And he has to change it. Like, it's just, there's no doubt about that. Like, someone can't be like that. Like, you have to change it, whether this life or next life or whatever. Like, he's on a, demonic path. He's going away from, the godly path by pursuing hate, pursuing his ego, all these things. I mean, all these people are doing it. There's so many people in the world. Most people are doing some level of this. Some are worse. Some are, not as bad, but most people aren't going in their soul's path. They're disconnected from their soul, and they're accumulating some scars and grossness, and they're going away from, the divinity within them. And even people on the spiritual path are fumbling. Like, I'm only partially committed to doing the spiritual thing. Like, I connect to God and I work on it, but, I'm a slacker and, I do, whatever. And, that's between me and God, and everything's between you and God and your soul. And, that's what matters, like living up to your soul's potential and and the plan for your life, your soul had a plan for your life on earth, and most people's egos have hijacked that plan and are deviating from that. And I could go around and tell every one of them, and I could tell them what they're doing and what they're doing wrong and how they could fix it. And 99.99999% of people wouldn't listen to me. And only the most desperate, who are in a desperate state, who are freaking out and want to change, would listen to me, right? Because, or me or anybody else, somebody that loved them, whatever, somebody in their lives. People don't change when you say things to them. So, what difference does it make? Like, what difference does it make whether I'm wrong or right about anything on my YouTube channel? Like, what a profound effect is me being right or me being wrong going to have on any of it? Like, it's only your own inner drama and your own self-importance that think that something's going to happen here when it's not. Like, nothing's going to happen. That's why you don't act in a dramatic way. You take a breath and you absorb something new's happened. Like, he gets on and immediately goes live stream. Like, he gets emotionally upset and he goes in front of a camera. Like, everyone's such amateurs in the truth community. Like, people are saying he's a shill, and maybe he's an actor or whatever. He's distant, he's Q and Tel Pro, whatever it is. We know what Alex Jones is or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. Maybe he's just good at it. But like most people on the internet are such amateurs. Like, people don't have a team. They don't have a publicist. Even the famous ones, maybe some more famous YouTubers do. Some of these famous, influencers do. But most people aren't trained. They can't strategize, and they don't think their way through things, right? Because the first thing you need to do is just sit back and not react until you think about what's just happened. Because oftentimes you don't know. Like, he didn't know what hit him. Like, he didn't know what happened. And so his first instinct was go and react on the internet and said things about me, which now opened the door for me to be less gentle, right? Which, was a mistake on his part. And all of his people that have been coming around and trolling and doing these things are keeping it alive. I have been ready to move on since the beginning. I didn't want to make the video in the first place. I was over it and I was relieved. And I didn't think anything good was going to come of it as far as I could tell. Like, some good things maybe will be happening. Who knows, right? This isn't about him or them. This is like a lesson for everybody else and understanding the things people don't think about. But one of the reasons I'll make multiple videos about a subject is people keep on writing comments, and I'll either mock the comments or they'll raise an interesting point. Even if it's a stupid point, it'll give rise to thoughts. And, it's like stuff is downloaded into my system. Just this information. Like when I wrote books, when what I do here, and there's just like, connecting to something and information just pouring through me. Like, that's how I do things. And so once in a while I'll look at something, all the time, because I do it on a daily basis, and I'll get what people think of as a take. Like, I'll get opinions about it. And some of it's based in my memory, some of it's me, some of it's my experience, but it's also being in the flow and connecting with the divine presence. All the great works are channeled. All the great books, all the great everything is connecting to a higher level of consciousness and having that information come from above. All the great stuff, even the low level stuff is like that. The demonic art and the demonic bad movies and TV shows, they're all channeled in some way. So these people left these lame ass comments. Like, I was hearing people were writing, "I'm so sorry you have to deal with these comments," and I'm like, what comments? Are there like comments I don't see? They're trying to get under my skin, but it's only serving to keep this thing going on my end, because it's reminding me of things, and it's like, wow, all right, maybe I'll have to say this. Otherwise, I would be moving on completely. Like, one person said, "I thought you were going to move on 3 videos ago. You said that one video you're going to move on. You said the last one's going to be the last video, and this was the last video." Well, that says I want to not make any more videos. So it would be wise for you to just sit back and shut up, right? You're not going to get to me with your stupid comments. You're just going to provoke more content. Figure out what your goal is, what you think the best thing that could happen for you. And for, them, if Big Parasite's not going to change, which he's not, then the best thing they can do is damage control. The best thing that he could have done was damage control. So if he could strategize and he didn't get emotional, he would sit back, and maybe he wants the drama to bring more energy and attention to his show, whatever. But he would realize that he's on record praising me in public over and over again. And he said things to me in emails and stuff, and or Instagram messages where he said, all this stuff about, me being his go-to stream, and how much he's been influenced and changed and how much he's learned from me, right? And how much I've been accurate and right, and there's all this stuff he said. And so when I come out and criticize him, it's a bummer because he's already said that I am a valid resource. And now he says he can't trust me only because, I've said things that he doesn't believe he has inside him, but everybody else does. But the best thing he could have done for himself was realized, because the way I presented the video, that this wasn't malicious. I'm not trying to get him. I'm not trying to create some sort of beef. That I'm honest, and many of his viewers have seen my channel, and some of them like it here and are fans of my channel, my show. And so by going after me when I've presented things that many of them agree with, would be undermining himself with his own audience, right? Panicking and saying things that are stupid and, ultimately people are going to see through them. You're just going to make things worse. Like he's made things worse. And so has his followers. And so I got a number of comments where people were saying to me, well, how are Madonna and Britney doing, right? Like this stuff. Which the idea here is that my channel is mostly about Britney and Madonna, which is completely not, right? Which I covered in this video that I just put up, the big parasite that, I explain why I make celebrity videos. And I never have wanted to be a celebrity. When I was a little kid, I remember I was 7 years old or something, 8 years old, I don't know, maybe older. I had a toy machine gun, like a plastic one. And I watched Charlton Heston in, I think, The Omega Man or Planet of the Apes. I think I watched a number of these. He was in a lot of sci-fi movies. And I remember acting out and thinking, I would be in a movie someday, right? But then that's the last time I thought about being in some sort of Hollywood celebrity type situation. I wanted to be a basketball player, like a great one, like a successful one, when I was younger. And then, a little bit when I was in college in a different way, like I knew I wasn't going to be in the NBA or whatever, but, I pursued this, whatever it was. But that really wasn't about fame. I'm not someone who sought fame. Whereas the big parasite was in Hollywood and was a part of this club and all these things. He sought this thing out, right? And so to compare me negatively, like he's more, in-depth and serious, and I'm about Britney and Madonna is stupid, right? When I've already talked about how people are into Hollywood and this is a business, and I have to do videos about subjects that I don't really care about, which is about almost everything I cover to some extent or another. And, that's why I mock it, because I don't care about it. I look down on it. And so I don't want to say I'm proud of doing that, but, it's something that I sacrifice, and now I enjoy it, so it's not a big problem. But in the beginning, it was a sacrifice. I had to, do something I didn't want to do that was unpleasant to me, that I thought was beneath me, right? But I worked as a janitor and I scrubbed toilets. I worked with cow dung on a farm, right? I covered our earth oven with cow dung. So, I've done what people consider dirty work or whatever it is. I'm willing to do things that people think are dirty work. And I didn't experience it as that, right? But Hollywood's probably the most kind of dirty, filthy kind of thing in terms of, all of the stuff like that I cover here. But if you're going to mock somebody, if you're going after somebody, you're trying to get under their skin, if you're going to say something like that, and, Britney and Madonna, mostly Britney, were brought up over and over again in some capacity in the comments. And that implies that I have some sort of shame in covering them, so that I'm going to get, feel bad about myself because they're bringing that up, which I don't, which I've already expressed that. If anything, it's, something that it speaks well of me to be able to dive into the cesspit, from a spiritual place, so I could disseminate spiritual information, which is what this channel's about, at its core. And you can see it, and those of you who can see it, fine. The people who can't are welcome to leave. I'm not here for Boops. I'm not here for remedial people. Low-level consciousness people. That's, I don't want, problem children. Like, I don't want emotionally damaged people who can't, who can't rise up to it. Like, I don't want psychologically messed up, dumb, stupid people. Like, there's lots of things for those people. Like, there's lots of things for stupid people out there. There's lots of movies, TV shows. There's lots of entertainment. There's lots of, internet channels and YouTube channels and social media platforms for stupid people. For higher developed people who are spiritual, people who are, whatever, people who are gifted and talented, people who are above average in terms of their intelligence, there's very little. Everything's catered to the lowest common denominator. And so there's enough of that stuff for everybody else that I don't offer it here. And the other reason would be that you would leave a comment and my viewers would go, oh my God, he does make Britney videos, and that would undermine me with my audience, which it's not going to do. So it's a swing and a miss, right? You're just like making the situation worse by stupidity, like not realizing, I'm impervious to your opinion. I don't care about your opinion, and I don't feel ashamed of things. Like, I know what I am, and I'm having a positive effect on people here in this YouTube channel, but I'm no saint, right? People are also saying that I have a God complex because of things I said about God directing me, but that's the way I experience it. I don't care if you believe it or not. I don't care if you mock me for it, but it's what I experience. It's either true or it's not true, and I don't have doubt in it because of my experience with it. But certainly I'm not a prophet. I'm not a saint. I'm not any of these things. I work on my spiritual connection with God, and I've just learned to do this stuff, through years of practice, and anybody can do it who's willing. Most people aren't willing, and many people can do it better, people in the Sizemore system, but they failed on Dodgy, and so now they're floundering, right? There was a great Whispers of the Brighter World message we're going to cover in the 122nd version of the Journey series, where he talks about, Babaji does, about all the things that are now happening with Dodgy, that he has to learn to choose his people, his inner circle. I could just read the thing. I'm just not going to do that because I've covered it already. But he talks about how all the things that have happened to Dodgy. And when I first read that, I looked at it a different way, that wouldn't happen, but now I see that it has. So there's that. People have challenges that they have to rise up against, moments in life, turning points in their life. This isn't for me one of them, this thing that's going on. So, I don't have beef. I want to move on. And yet, the incompetence, the amateurness of the way this is being handled, and you see it all over the internet. People get in these stupid beefs. Well, you said this and you don't post that. No, you said that. And you said this and you did that and you said that. What are you doing? Like, it's amateur night, right? Like, you have to have a goal and think about where you're going and what you're doing and whether something's going to help or hurt your goal, your situation. And then you apply a system, an efficient system to achieve that. And so you just have to come up with ways to deal with all the noise. Like, most of the stuff on the internet's noise, and you have to deal with it. And almost everyone gets sucked into the noise. And so I want to go to the other comment here because this is the more important one. As someone who was once a bear until he went after JB and his family after losing their debate terribly, it's been insane watching his fall. We all knew he was on and off stealing content from you and Matt from Quantum and looked the other way. Thank you for calling him out. Some of the people in his cult are good people. They just can't see past his manipulation. And so he wrote to me about the conflict he had with this guy, JB. I don't know why he did. It's kind of weird. He compared himself basically to Dodgy and JB to Kamlish, to Chargy, himself to Chargy, and JB to Kamlish or Dodgy. And he was saying that guy was trying to usurp him and taking over his thing, and the guy wanted to be him and all these things. I don't know who that is, and I don't care, and I don't know anything about it. But a number of people have mentioned that they left because of that, and he's been spiraling ever since. So the thing about him taking creative content and repurposing it for his own, situation there, which has been confirmed by so many people. And most of those people, I mean, some of them are even still in the, in the organization or whatever you want to call it. And, there's two things I want to say about that. The first is about the elders or the sort of OGs in the truth community, which I'm one of them. And, people who were around here, back in the early 2000s and, people even before that, like my brother, and I'll get into that as well. People who kept this, started this kind of movement back in the 60s and 70s and so forth. There was a guy, Jeff C. Someone said Jeff C. called this guy out. Jeff C. was someone I listened to. He was, emotional himself. He got into a lot of truth or drama. He, I remember him. He did a lot of covering of some of these, I don't want to say the event that Alex Jones got in trouble for. Some of these things. There's a few people I used to watch. They're all gone now. Jeff C's dead. Jeff C. did a good thing when he figured out that whatever that, I can't remember it was one of these video streaming services. It's, one that everyone knows the name. I just can't think of it now. But he figured out the 88th Brigade was, it was the internet wing of the British Army, and it was a block or two away from BitChute. I think it was BitChute. And so, like, 2 blocks away from the, the organization that was spying on people on the internet for the military was a video, a video hub. So, and one time I remember he, called me the C word because I was talking, I was talking about banning people, which he was against. We didn't have any kind of relationship. But he, later praised me and, mentioned me out, called me, give me shout outs or whatever. He was like someone who was an old school person. But he was, again, somebody who got into a lot of drama in the truth community, which is, never been a good thing. Like if you're fighting against a force that is indestructible, it's only destructible in the fact that it's self-destructing right now. But it isn't something that the people can crush. The people can't, if the people bring it down, I mean, we could bring it down. And, people could always bring the establishment down. But if we brought it down, the whole system would come down with it, right? And so it's not a battle that we can win. But even in that, just getting the information out and the way that they're, doing all of us, it's not a good situation, right? And so when there's infighting, then, people who bring drama and causing conflict, and the big parasite is, I think, the number one guy. I mean, I don't know, there's lots of sucky people in the truth community, but he's the number one conflict causer. It just serves to defeat all these things, right? Any movement forward. It undermines everything. And Jeff C., like some of his videos years ago, I don't think I would have liked him as time went on because, you move beyond people, right, in your own evolution. But he was one of the people. There's other people that helped create this platform, create this genre of videos. And whenever you come into something, you have to understand there's people who paved the way. My family and I met, my first family met some of the pioneers of homeschooling. And I never thought about it, but these people, most of them were, right-wing Christians. Some of them were some hippies in some places, but boomer hippies, but most of them were right-wing Christians who had to make it acceptable to homeschool their kids. They had to fight legally to make something that all of us who homeschool our kids owe them a debt of gratitude, right? They paved the way. If your state is open to you homeschooling, it's because people in that state went and worked the system and helped to make it legal against people who were making profit out of kids going to school. This is a huge school budget in these towns, and the government, they get funded and all these things. So these people didn't want homeschooling, but these, families went out, these individual families went out and did this. And I talked to these people and they told me what they went through, and, they're adult kids. I knew one of their adult daughters who was, this couple used to milk our cows when we all went on vacation. And it was an interesting conversation. And I didn't realize that, people had done that and made it, easy for us to homeschool our kids because of the work these people had done. And whenever there's a situation like that, you don't want to come in guns blazing. That's why the flat earthers, the right-wing truthers, and the QBs, and now this guy, the big parasite, and some of these people who came in and they learned what we had and they took what we had and they weren't respectful about it, right? They weren't respectful to the old guard and they didn't understand what had been built here, all of you. And there's, always going to be an issue there because of that. And so many people have come forward now saying they all knew that he was repurposing my info and other people's and presenting it as his own in many cases. And they knew because they were watching both people. I read you a few comments and people were saying this over and over, which, isn't cool. Like that should have been a red flag for you in itself. But here's the thing I've never told you, and I'm going to have to mention this earlier on in the video. The information that comes from Saj Marg and the divine movement that is, there's times where a divine being, a higher developed soul descends to earth. All these religions are based in that. And a new movement, a new paradigm is possible if people rise up to it. And most times people have fallen short. The spiritual person was limited by the people that were there who weren't rise up to the spiritual knowledge and the movement and the cosmic shift that could have taken place. And then of course religious people come in and hijack and take the information for themselves. And there's safeguards against that in the Saj Marg system. And, I'm clear on that myself, that, whatever I present in terms of that, whatever gifts I've been given, whatever, talents that have been maximized for me to do this work, that, I serve a system that's benefited me, that I'll be forever grateful for, that's changed me and made me into a better person, a more loving person, helped me connect to God and made me more competent, more functioning in every way. And I serve that, right? Regardless of whether I say it all the time or, that's counterproductive if I said it all the time, but I say it enough, but my intentions are there. But if someone comes in and takes this information and uses it to, aggrandize themselves, and, there's consequences for that because, it can't be used that way like other stuff was used before and turned into a religion, even this stuff that's going on with Dodgy. Like you have to remember what the purpose of it is. And it's to help people connect to God and collectively and make a movement where people are now living as spiritual beings. It's a very simple purpose, but it's easy to get perverted and diluted. And so, it can't be stolen and repurposed by people. And, maybe that's the reason for my video because, this stuff was happening. And, anybody who would be doing that would be making a mistake because it's bigger than them. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than anybody. This is, what needs to happen for humanity. I think most people would agree that if people, if you believe in a soul and you believe in God, if people could connect to a higher level of consciousness in themselves, a higher level of their expression of themselves, their souls, and if we could have a society full of saints, either you've met saints or, people that you look at, religious figures. What if we had a society full of Jesuses or, Krishnas or whoever, Buddhas or whatever it might be? What if everybody was living on a higher level of consciousness? What would our society and our worlds be like? It's an obvious solution. And that's what the Saj Marg system is. And you can't, grab onto some of the brilliance and the energy and repurpose it and use it for your own ends. And people have done that, things haven't gone so well for them, right? Because there's safeguards that are in place. Anywho, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.